evening, and welcome to The Issue, the show that discusses and analyzes controversial topics relevant to students everywhere. Today's issue we're going to discuss is elitism in academia. And we have our guests on today, English professor and renowned Professor Ryan Vaughan. And we also have senior and economics major Jared Skorsky.
Yeah, I'm not special.
Renowned
senior. Great.
Renowned senior. Thank you both for being here.
My pleasure.
Good hat for the show.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're going to discuss today about elitism in academia. So we'll start with you, Professor Vaughan. So there's this stigma on campus and in other schools, I would say, that liberal arts majors are not the way to go, that it's not beneficial, that you should major in business. So talk to us a little bit about what you think is beneficial, because you're a PhD in English.
That is true.
That is true.
I think the major should represent the individual, okay? I went through this in my graduate work. People told me to study very specific things that I had no interest in, but that would be marketable or practical or any number of words like that. And I just knew that I couldn't do that for the rest. I couldn't invest myself into something I didn't care about. So if you're not into business or marketing or whatever they do in SOM, don't do that. It might not be, like I said before, practical to do a liberal arts major, but if it suits you, I think that's what makes something practical.
What would you say are the benefits to getting a liberal arts degree as opposed to a different degree?
So look, I think it'd be hard to argue that there aren't sort of intrinsically benefits in a liberal arts degree, in that it, by the nature of liberal arts, it's opening your mind to a vast array of different kinds of fields and all different areas of expertise. It basically trains you to think in a different kind of way, to analyze, to open your mind up, and like you said, write and then do all these things that you get experience to. You get a taste of these really important skills instead of just learning everything there is to know about just one thing, but then missing all this other stuff.
Right. You're not going to get a job out of college being a liberal artist. Let's put it that way.
So do you think...
But that doesn't diminish its value. I think a lot of the stigma that you talked about is like who's measuring? How do you measure success? Right.
Yeah.
Most people in our culture measure success by wealth and accumulated stuff, things, material things. Well, yeah, that's one standard of happiness and success. You might have to recalibrate that standard if you're a liberal arts major or if you're in some other discipline where that's not necessarily the end goal.
We're told that every day.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter how many times like you keep hearing it. You keep hearing also, well, you gotta get a job and you gotta be successful and make money, and you hear both sides every single day. It's hard to drown out one, not the other.
It's clearly beneficial to like a personal extent to take classes in liberal arts or even get a degree in it. But do you think that, tuition is really expensive now and it's only going up, especially with Binghamton, with the construction, everything, tuition has gone up in the past year. So do you think that it's beneficial for students to actually get a major in it in terms of like, is it worth it? Is it worth the cost? Are you going to get jobs afterwards? Do you hear students feedback, past students, do they tell you that it's hard to get jobs, or are they...
It's not if you're an SOM.
That's right, liberal arts.
Right. I don't know that it's any harder to get jobs. You might just not end up at the job that your degree is supposed to be for. I think it's back to what you value, right? Like, you need the liberal arts skills that you're supposed to take away from a liberal arts degree to be successful in any discipline. That I know for sure, because that's what most of them say. I learned more about how the world works, how to relate to people, how to deal with, people of different backgrounds and things like that from your class, and that I apply every single day, as opposed to the economics class that I don't use at all.
I think it's a little bit harder to actually answer the question. The question going from now, are there benefits, to are those benefits worth it?
Yeah.
And you're talking about sort of a value, and the question then really becomes like, well, what is the value?
Right.
Why are you there in the first place? And if the question is, or if the answer is, you're doing this to get a good job and make a lot of money and do exactly what it is that you want to be doing, I think that you can see that if you specialize in something, you're more likely to end up there, and it's easier to actually go where you want to go and sort of specialize and make money doing that, as opposed to sort of search around more.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit harder. So it depends entirely, I think, on what it is you're trying to do. For you, it wasn't an issue at all, because it was just like, I want to do what I want to do. I just want to do whatever.
But in that process, which was the liberal arts process, I believe that I found the reason why I'm on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, to teach it was by trial and error, because of my liberal arts. Like, I didn't end up doing something I don't like because I went through this process.
And you didn't know.
That you don't go through when you decide when you're 18 that you want to be, you want to be a Wall Street banker. Well, that might sound nice, and if you just have tunnel vision, and that's all you learn, and that's how midlife crises happen. Right?
So a few midlife crises happen.
You get to, you get to 45, and you're like, shit, I got all this money, but
So
I'm not happy. I hate what I do. I have no life. Or, I mean, some people say that, some people don't. But that's how, like I said, midlife crises happen, when you decide so soon what you want to do with your life. Even if it's I talk to students every semester. I have hundreds of seniors. I get seniors. That's basically what I teach. And I say, they're like, oh my God, I'm going to graduate. What am I going to, I'm like, you shouldn't know what you're going to do when you're 21. Like, that's a recipe for disaster for the most part.
So do you think society, or do you think it's parents, or do you think society pressures students to get that job, get that business degree, get that engineering degree?
It's everything. It's both parents, and I was lucky to have parents who weren't like that, like slave drivers, Get that degree, and I would argue with my dad while I was in college. I'm like, at least 50% of this is the social aspect of college. That's why you go.
Right.
That's what makes it, we're talking about worth it. For me, that was worth it. I met the best friends. I still am close with, 25 people that I went to college with. He didn't understand. My dad didn't understand that. He was like, oh, well, okay, if he gets a job and you can pay, I'm like, nah, it's different now.
It's different.
Yeah, and I'll use my wife as an example. She didn't want to go to college. Her parents made her go to college for the aspect, the social aspect. She said she went to find a husband, which sounds
Did you
horribly,
meet together?
it sounds horribly like misogynist, but she'll tell you, and she got
Does
an
it
A.
work?
She got an A in
I was
that,
going to say it worked.
obviously.
Clearly. I think it's interesting when you start sort of bringing parents into it, because for a lot of people, parents are the ones paying for it in the first place.
Right.
And then it gets into a whole other territory where, well, now what are the parents hoping to get out of it? If they're the ones paying for it, they have some sort of goal, whether it's the
But
same.
what?
I mean, I ideally like to make your kid happy and successful, but
Yeah.
that image could look very different for a parent than for the kid himself.
Especially because the
Oh,
child's
absolutely.
the investment for the parent. That's
Exactly.
how I would think of
Yeah.
it. So where the parents are putting their money, they expect to control their investment. For, not all parents, but parents that pressure their kids to go into.
Jewish parents.
My parents are pretty supportive, even though I'm Jewish parents. The Jewish guilt, it's real. Would you say the point of college is to better yourself as a person and do what you love, or
Yeah.
to more better yourself as like on the resume or on the application?
I've said before, the purpose of college, the meaning of life is to find out who you are. That's it. I just answered it on the show.
There we
The
go.
meaning of life.
Meaning of life.
The problem though
Tell
is
everyone
you're
Just
then
to find out
paying
who
quite
you
a bit
are.
of money to
for the meaning
find
of
out.
life.
I mean, it's priceless, is it not?
When
To
you- if
know
you find
who
it.
you are.
Right, but is that the only way to sort of find
It's
out?
not.
Find out.
And it,
Can you find a cheaper way?
yeah, easily. But
Then why not?
this
Why not?
was my way. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You can. That's why I said before. To each his own path, right?
Well, I think the problem is just if it's really that easy, why doesn't everyone just do it?
I don't
You
know.
know, everyone is paying all this money and spending all this time coming here, and if there's sort of an easy way, not easy, but like doable way, it's relatively feasible. Why not just do that
I did.
without college?
Oh,
I mean,
Well,
because to go to college, you're putting in this huge investment,
sure.
and if your only goal is to just learn who you are and become sort of a better person, become happy, I mean, if there's another way to do that, shouldn't you just do that instead?
Sure.
Do you think though that
I dropped out of school.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
I did.
there's your answer?
After
That
He did
answers
it, and he
everything.
did it.
After my first semester junior year, I was like, I can't do it anymore. And I bailed.
You went back.
I did.
Wow.
That's really impressive.
So that's what I mean about not having that tunnel vision
Yeah.
when you start college. Be like, okay, I'm here to be this, and if I don't achieve it, I failed. Like, if I'm not a doctor by the end of this next 15 years or whatever it is, then I
Whoops.
failed, right? I was burnt out on school, just the whole thing, and I said, I'm done. And I dropped out, I followed fish around the country.
That's fun.
Followed fish?
Yeah, the band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not just,
I just pictured you like in a boat,
Yeah.
swimming around.
Aquarium.
No.
Just floating back.
I did that for a year, and then, again, that I suppose was the antithesis of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
What you're suggesting.
Extreme
Why
opposite.
not just do that? And I did that for a year, and it was spectacular, and there was a real turning point in my life. And I'm like, you know what, I want to go back to school. So I kind of went through a process saying school is the way I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
You had a little detour, but you got that.
Yeah. I finished my undergrad, and then I took 3 years off after that, between that and grad school. I got married, and I had a kid. So, I wasn't that one-track
Yeah.
mind. But then I'm like, you know what, I'd like to get my PhD. So 3 years went by, and then I came back for my
All right, and that makes it an actual choice. Consciously, you said, this
Yeah.
is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I speak against in class all the time, is that, why, I ask kids, why are you here?
I don't know.
I'll ask 250 seniors, why are you here? And a lot of them are like, I did not want to hear that question a week before I
I was gonna say wait before you graduate. Not the best question. Almost as bad as what are you doing next year?
Right. But we
So
have really
worse.
good discussions out of that question. And, I'll get a handful of students who are like, you know what, like, I'm not going to do, like, it changes their life. They're like, I stopped, whatever it was, I'm not going to med school now. And then, then I start to feel like, oh boy, if this doesn't
What did
work
I
out,
do?
if
Like,
this doesn't work out,
Ruin their lives.
They come back feeling like getting a recreation
not,
order for.
according to who?
Right.
Okay. Pointing to them and
Well, I don't know.
society.
I haven't had that message yet. You ruined my
Good.
life, Vaughn.
I think let's go to the opposite about
Stop
your
talking.
classes. So would you say,
An email's coming.
yeah, lots of emails,
Yeah.
lots of messages. So on more of the professor side, not really elitism amongst students in academia, but on the flip side, elitism amongst professors. Many people that I know have taken your classes, many of my peers, myself included, I could attest to it that your class is the most different class that I've ever taken. And I love it for that, but do professors view your class on the same level as theirs? Do you have issues amongst other professors? Do you think that this is an issue, like, not just in Binghamton, but like in other campuses?
I think it's everywhere. People look down their nose at me because of what I teach, right? Humor, comedy, film, television,
Right.
whatever it is, stand up. It's media, but it's mainstream media, and that that just gets a bad rap especially in the English side of academia, because it's not literature, it's
Not Shakespeare.
theory, and what have you. So I get more sort of dirty looks and ruffled feathers because of what I teach, and it's sort of it's kind of a self-perpetuating cycle, in that obviously 20-year-olds love that stuff. Why not learn from it too? So then everyone likes the stuff that everybody hates. Like, screw this guy, he's taking all our students. No one wants to learn from a book anymore. So there's definitely stigmas against me and people like me in academia.
With the idea of different schools of thought or different professors, different institutions, whatever it is, they look down on certain parts of academia.
Yeah.
Either within their field or within a different field entirely.
Everyone looks down on me.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
But so is there anywhere that's like off limits, that like we should be looking down on certain parts of certain
I
fields?
don't think so. If you can, anything is worth studying, right? I believe that. A video game class. That was the theory behind the video game class, which of course, if we're talking about a hierarchy of accepted mediums in academia,
we have the lowest.
Here's number one is
Video
film.
games.
Like, film made the journey.
Yeah.
TV's behind, but I think gaining
Getting
ground. Video games is now the bastard child.
Yeah.
So, but my theory was, and I presented it to the department this way, I'm like, video games are the new novel. Like, they put as much time and money in the story as they do into graphics and gameplay and set pieces and all that kind of stuff. So why don't we treat these like novels? And that was the basis of the course. Instead of going home and reading, 3 chapters, you go home and you play 4 levels of the video game.
Did other English professors, when they heard about this,
At this
did
point,
they approach you and tell you, like, what do you think you're doing?
oh, no one talks to me.
Aww.
No.
And I think at this point, you don't surprise anyone. Everyone
I feel
knows.
like you still somewhat could. Like, if I'm saying, all right, TV sitcoms, we have humor in film, stand-up, and all of a sudden, like, video games pop up. That surprised me. I wouldn't.
That's logical, right?
It is logical.
That's the
but I
next
wouldn't-
step.
That's
it's
literally,
next
I was
step.
Yeah.
like, okay, I've done all this.
Everyone
What's
like,
left?
playing
And I
games.
said, video games, that would work. And the class worked really well. I taught it, I think, 3 times now. And it just changes people's perceptions about the medium, and there's a lot that there's a lot you can learn from video games. It's another thing we take for granted.
In a world where you constantly hearing about political correctness, especially in college,
Right.
and
Can't say
and
certain
people
words.
consistently, like all the time, a student will walk out on a professor and turn into a whole big scandal because of like one word or anything,
It's
and
funny
then here you
because-
are.
It's funny because I
Forgot the words.
think again, comedy sort of negotiates that for me, right? Everyone enters into that room, whatever room it is, with this perception that it's about, no one's serious. I'm
Yeah.
not being serious. When I say the things that I say, obviously I'm being, you know what I mean. But I think academia is the final sort of bastion of that kind of free speech. There it should be. But you're right. Like now it seems like, you say
Even
one
for
word out of
comedians.
place.
Even for comedians,
Well, yeah, the
Jerry
whole
Seinfeld.
scandal now, Seinfeld just said that. I was like,
Yeah.
I won't do colleges anymore because I can't say anything. I have not found that to be true.
No problem.
Well, he came to Binghamton and he said all what he wanted.
Yeah. Maybe we caused it.
We probably
Maybe
did.
But
we
he
were the
was
Well,
at
I
the
came here and
forum.
it worked, and
No,
he was
but he
like,
wasn't here.
well, he was in
He was in
Binghamton
the arena.
City.
That's what I mean. He's
Close
saying he won't play a college anymore.
Any university.
Oh, okay.
He'll go, obviously, he goes
He
to
should come
places
sit in
where
on your
college.
class and then be like, oh, maybe I could play here.
I don't disagree with that. But, yeah, and I said to your class, in response to that question, I think
People know.
at least half the people in that room are there to see me say those things. Because they're like, oh, I heard a lot about this guy.
Right.
Let's see if it's
It's true.
Yeah.
See if he can live up to whatever the hell that means. But yeah, I think because, and we talk about it in class all the time, because it's comedy, there's some leeway, right? Because it's humor and everyone kind of understands that that's what we're studying. It's almost like I'm practicing what I preach. Right? And I've had a few students write me years later and say, it just hit me that you were doing exactly what you were trying to teach us. I'm like, yay.
You got it.
Figured it out.
You
Years
got
later.
it. We did it.
Tune in next week for another episode on The Issue. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Tired of the books and tired of